We have talked about the big Supreme Court decision that came down on Wednesday that said the state of Tennessee has the right to keep young minor children from having so-called gender-altering surgeries, however you want to classify it. That is, potentially your genitals could be chopped off because you happen to think you're a boy or a girl or vice versa, which is different than the body that you were actually in. Front page story. From the primary, I would still say, Democrat mouthpiece in media, the New York Times. Headline, Democrats' wary response to transgender ruling shows the party's retreat. That's the headline today's front page New York Times. While some in the party denounced the Supreme Court's decision, other top leaders remained quiet, underscoring the party's discomfort on the issue. Another way of talking about this would be that Democrats have been proven wrong on this. And I just thought this entire article was very interesting. Leading Democrats, opening sentence, offered a slow trickle of critical reaction on Wednesday to the Supreme Court's decision upholding a state ban on some transgender care for youth, blah, 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 blah. Hours after the ruling arrived, some top Democrats, like Chuck Schumer, had statements. But, Chuck Schumer is never going to run for president of the United States. He represents the Senate Democrat coalition. And so that didn't really surprise me. But here is the third paragraph. Many others, including key players in the 2028 shadow primary race, had yet to weigh in. Gavin Newsom, at least at the time that this was written, nothing. Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, nothing. Wes Moore of Maryland, nothing. Asked for comment, representatives for all three governors said they were not issuing any statements on the decision for now. This is what victory looks like. They also reached out to Mayor Pete, to other people, and by and large, this was, again, to a great degree, ignored. And the front page article, again in the New York Times, points to, and I've been thinking about this ad quite a lot because I've got a new book coming out. It's called Balls, B-A-L-L-S, about how Trump won men and sports fans and how we all saved the nation in 2024. Very understated, in case you're wondering, also has two big pictures of basketballs on the cover. You guys are going to love it. There's going to be a lot of people that lose their mind over it. It's going to be out in November. And the book basically argues that young men, sports fans, and Trump saved America in 2024. And one of the parts of the book is this front page article. Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you. I would submit to you that might be the single most effective political ad that any presidential candidate has run in my life. I know there's been a lot of them, but the data reflects that ad, that Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you, because I've been doing research on it for the book, moved in the favorable direction towards Trump 2.7 points. It worked well for moms, white moms. It worked well for black and Hispanic men. Those were groups that were particularly impacted by that ad, which I think speaks to the scope of disgust that has settled in. Now, men competing in women's sports is a part of it, but I would argue the far more significant component to this is, hey, if your son is 15 and thinks he's a girl, we should chop his penis off. I mean, that is Democrat orthodoxy right now, but they are getting rejected nationwide. Front page, credit to the Supreme Court, but front page news in the New York Times pointing out that Democrats are now running from this issue. And the other thing that I thought signed in here was there is a new poll out from Coefficient talking about who are the favorites for Democrat presidential nomination in 2028. I just mentioned some of them to you there. Kamala Harris, 26% support. Gavin Newsom, 21% support. AOC, 14% support. Mayor Pete, 11%. Walz, 10%. Josh Shapiro, 3%. That's the top 6. I would submit to you that the top 5 here, you can clip this, you can save it, you can call me a moron if I'm wrong on early November of 2028. Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, Mayor Pete, and Tim Walz, they have a 0% chance of being elected president of the United States. They may be the nominee. I'm not saying that that's impossible, but I think Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, Mayor Pete, and Tim Walz have a 0% chance. Now, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, problem he has, unfortunately for him, is he's Jewish, and a large contingent of the Democrat base doesn't like Jewish people. That's going to be voting in the primary. That's why I think he wasn't the nominee as vice president. So that's an issue for him. I think Wes Moore is going to run. Wes Moore, I think, has been making some solidly strategic moves. Very popular Maryland governor, not a crazy person. I know he's been reaching out to President Trump frequently, and they actually have a decent relationship. I think Trump would tell you that. And Wes Moore has a military athlete's background. He's not a pussy willow like a lot of Democrats, and frankly, a lot of people don't know him. And so I think that helps. But I don't think anybody with a major public profile that is a Democrat right now can get elected in 2028 because they've all gone over the woke waterfall and they've embraced such crazy, what I would say is fundamentally rejected by most reasonable American positions. And that was, the Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you ad really built off the idea that Kamala Harris said that illegal immigrants should get trans surgeries paid for by taxpayers. She supported that. And I think that Democrats have had to support so many ridiculous stories and just flagrantly ridiculous positions that I think a lot of currently elected Democrats have a 0% chance of being able to be elected nationwide. J.B. Pritzker, Illinois governor, no chance. Gretchen Whitmer, she's kind of got a Cruella de Vil look about her. I think it's unlikely. I think she would expose herself on the national stage. I also don't think that Democrats are going to nominate a woman because of what's happened to Hillary and Kamala. And I think they recognize that that is probably not a good direction to go. But I think the bigger issue they have is they're wrong on all the issues. So they need someone who is either not a politician, they need their own version of Trump, somebody who comes out of the woodwork. Look out for George Clooney. I think he's a moron. Some of you may have seen us going back and forth, but Mark Cuban, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Evidently, Kamala Harris strongly considered him to be her vice presidential running mate. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of rich guys that make the decision, hey, on the Democrat side, I could be the Democrat version of Trump. I could be a disruptor. I could sort of scatter the ridiculousness and absurdity, shatter once and for all the woke universe. I think you're going to see a lot of people making that move. And I was thinking about it as you are seeing right now, Democrats scurry from positions that would have been party orthodoxy just a couple of years ago. I think they've recognized that the trans thing has gone too far. I think most people, and I'm talking about middle of the road voters, will say, okay, if you're a grown man or a grown woman and you want to dress up and pretend that you're a different gender because it makes you happier, okay. If you're a grown man or grown woman and you want to have surgery to try in some way alter your appearance so you appear to not be the gender, I think that's increasingly getting harder to defend, I think, just based on the health-related risk. But I think most people are saying, okay, but you come for children, that's a line that we are not going to allow to be touched. And I also think the men and women's sports crystallizes that. At some point, the logical limits of inclusion are reached. And when you go too far, you begin to exclude people in the name of inclusion. That is, when you're saying, hey, this man deserves to be able to compete in women's sports, you're knocking women out of being able to compete in women's sports. So you want to be inclusive. I think them talking about middle-of-the-road voters that are open, but not to the point of exclusion. And I think that's where we are. And I thought that was interesting. Front page, New York Times, many of the top contenders for the Democrat nomination are not criticizing that Supreme Court decision. We'll talk more about that. We'll have some fun as we roll through the Friday edition of the program. In the meantime, summer officially arriving today. This is the longest day of the year. And when you're outside more, enjoying that longest day of the year, that means more time with different sports maybe in the backyard, with your kids, grandkids running around. It also means storms, because thunderstorms can move through rapidly. It's super hot. They come through rapidly all over the country. And when your gutters can get clogged as a result of those storms, bringing down limbs, branches, trees, you need to protect your home now with Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection company. Save up to 30% off your entire order. Go to leaffilter.com/clay. Get started today. Leaf Filter's trusted pros clean out, realign, seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter's award-winning patented technology, trusted by over 1 million homeowners. Schedule your free inspection. Get up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/clay. That's LEAFfilter.com/clay. See your representative for warranty details.